Hey, everybody. Today for you, podcast number 89. Today's podcast is titled, Be Conscious of the Constant. Hey, everybody. Welcome to this week's edition of your weekly Limitless Life Network podcast. We are Dr. Pete and Sandy Lombardi, and this is the Limitless Life Network podcast where we flesh out the limitations that are preventing you from reaching your goals and living the life that you are called to lead. And we have a fun one for you today. I don't know if it's a fun one or it's a pretty good thinking one. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. It's a good one, but we always like to start off by saying thank you, right? Start off with gratitude. Thank you for listening in, giving us some time to check out the podcast, and hopefully you're inspired by it, and hopefully it lifts you up and finds you in a great place, or brings you to a great place. But as always, like, follow, share, and hit the subscribe button. That way we can spread the word and bring more joy to people's lives. So on with the show. What do you have to say today, Sandy? You have a lot to say.
We spent a lot of time thinking about today's material and had a lot of conversations and went around a lot of different topics. So yeah, I think it's going to be a good one.
Yeah, I think it will be too. It started off, I went to Pennsylvania with a friend, Jack Ellison, not to name names, but he invited me. It was his idea to go do this, but to go see Jordan Peterson down in Reading, Pennsylvania. So we drove down there on Friday. And if you're not familiar with Jordan Peterson, check him out. He's got his own podcast. Anyway, I was inspired. There was definitely a lot of conversation over the 4-hour drive down and the 4-hour drive back with Jack. And he's a really deep thinker and really intelligent man. So I enjoyed that thoroughly. I was a little bit tired actually afterwards, probably from the driving more than the conversation. The conversation was great. Mm-hmm. But the title of Jordan Peterson's presentation, and I think he wrote a book too as well, and it's called "We Who Wrestle with God." So check it out if you're interested. I really like Jordan Peterson's stuff. He's a truth speaker, a truth seeker. So anyway, we have, how would you describe today's topic? We did a lot of wrestling, didn't we?
We did.
We did some verbal wrestling.
It's powerful, I think, for us as we develop this content. And some days it's just right there. Like we've taken notes on things during the week, like last week's coming off of the Olympic gold speaker. And today we just, to be honest, we spent about half an hour this morning and I was the one, I just wasn't in the right frame of mind. I'm like, I need to get outside and move and do something active. And so we came back at it late afternoon. So those are real times in life, right? Where your creativity's not there and you need to just get outside and get physical and move your body.
Yeah, I mean, we both did.
Yeah. Well, it was a beautiful day here, which one of the few ones we've had recently too.
Yeah,
so
yeah, for sure. I know it was a lot hotter than I thought it was going to be today. I thought I almost was going to have heat stroke. I was out doing some physical labor and I just got carried away. So anyway, I'm showered up, rested up, and I feel great now. But all right, so conscious of the constant, and I guess the constant, we have to talk about what the constant is, because we want to draw awareness to it. And I know you guys know it exists, and there are constants that you can always count on. And I'm really referring to a constant undertow, a constant current that's trying to pull you under. There's a constant presence of bad things going on in the world. There's constant lure into bad places and bad thoughts, bad ideas. And you have to be aware of it. And if you're not aware of it, you can find yourself sliding into it, being sucked into it, being drawn down. It can be like a tractor beam pulling you in. No matter how hard you try, it's pulling you in, but you're not really trying, right?
We talked about it can even just be this drift. Like you don't even notice that you're going in that direction because it's such a slow, gradual process.
Oh yeah, actually, that's something Pastor talked about on Sunday. Was he noticed a log floating by his dock at camp, and it was there. Just seemed like it was bobbing around in the water. And he got busy working on something, and an hour or two later, he looked out, and it was about 100 yards offshore, or 100 feet, whatever it was. It was out in the middle of the lake, and it was just bobbing up and down, and the waves were overtaking it. And he realized that it was actually going to sink.
Yeah.
It was the waves were swamping this log so much that it was going under. And that's that constant undertow that's constantly out there in the world today. And it's always been there, actually. It's not like it's new, right? Because you were telling me you were reading about, what are you reading in Ezekiel?
Yeah. And, we think of the world as so bad right now, but when you read back historically through the Bible, like there were a lot of really bad times and
Absolutely.
destruction and sin and God wiping out entire people groups, right? Like,
Sure. Yeah. So that's I guess the theme to think about, is to remind yourself there will always be this constant pulling and constant dragging, and we're going to help you to combat that in these next 4 points, I guess. And point number 2, you had something you wanted to talk about there.
Right. I just put constant challenging. So, and I wanted to speak on values. And we had a situation going on the last couple weeks where something that we hold in high value was challenged, and we kind of almost started to fall into society's norm of this thing, and like it's accepted, and we started to like kind of believe all these little lies. And then finally we're like, it was actually after church service, I felt convicted, and I was like, this is wrong. Like
Right.
And so I guess like speaking truth, whether it be as a parent or a friend or a coworker or whatever it would be, like that you need to be speaking up against things that aren't right and godly, and are going to bring less than the best, I guess, for the individual that that you're watching make these decisions.
Well, and I think the thing that is hard to realize is that these things are very subtle, and they almost seem like it's actually a good idea, because there will be like these pros, right? Pros versus cons. You'll see the pros, right? And that'll look so good. The pros are so good. You're going to save money, or you're going to make money, or it's going to give you more time, or whatever it might be. But when you look at the big theme of it, it's all wrong. It's like, it's not good to do. So it's not going to benefit everybody. And it's not going to, in the long run, it's not going to be good for you. So it's good to speak the truth. And I mean, we're going to come back to this idea of truth over and over again. But yeah, it's always seeking what the truth is, for sure. Okay. Anything else you want to say about that?
No.
Yeah, it was good. All right. Next one is constant chatter.
A lot of different angles we were discussing with this. And I'm in a group where there's an individual who's kind of always finding fault with things and people and situations. And it brings the entire body down when that happens. And I was just reading something and reflecting and thought, I read that, if you're on the receiving end, hearing all this complaining, gossip, if you will, and you're just listening, you're no better than the person that's giving it, dishing it out. So like to stop that person from speaking that and helping them to either, if it's not beneficial to be sharing it, keep it to themselves, or go directly to the person that they have fault with. but seeking a better way, a higher way of dealing with conflict. So there was a lot of other.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking too, like sometimes it's just chatter in your own mind too.
True.
Like you just questioning things, having things just, judging things in your own head, like it being indecisive because of this chatter. And it's an undermining, right? It's undermining your productivity. It's undermining your successfulness, your power to influence and help people, right? So there's always going to be chatter out there, judging, a critical eye, a critical ear, whatever it might be. It's if you are among that, put it out or get away from it. And if you're doing it, recognize it, be aware of it, stop it. There you go.
Well, and we were saying too, like women tend to want to fix things, have more of a compassionate side. And I definitely fall into that where the chatter can just be constant in my brain. Like I like there to be peace and harmony. And so it really disrupts me to be thinking about those things. And just last night, I have to read. Like if I'm in something going through my head, I just either have to read my Bible or a book just to change, to turn it off.
Yeah. Guys tend to be maybe less comforting and nurturing in their line of thinking. They're more competitive and they may have more like competitive chatter going on or more singular focus and tend to be maybe more judgmental. Have more of a critical eye, like somebody's not doing a good enough job. Like I could do better, right? So that's more of a guy like thing, trying to be more linear focused and single minded, I guess. So yeah, so that was number 3, constant chatter. What about number 4?
Well, it kind of feeds into, you talked about competition. So constant comparison,
Oh
or
yeah.
you could be looking at it in terms of competition.
Mm-hmm.
There was a quote in a book I was reading, comparison is the thief of joy. That was by Theodore Roosevelt.
Teddy.
Yeah. So like when we're fixated on watching other people's progress, it really will steal our own joy, and we need to know our purpose, our passion, stay focused on our line, and not be comparing it with the direction someone else is going.
Yeah, I mean, I know guys can be very competitive, but also very comparative. How much money they make, right? Earners, like, are you earning enough money for your family? Are you taking enough vacations? Are you, reaching goals and all these things that you tend to compare with other people? Why is somebody where they are and I'm not there yet? Blah blah blah. It's a game that you'll never win. And it is a thief of joy. So, where does joy come from? That's a good question. What's that?
Joy comes from the Lord.
Yeah, no, yeah, that's exactly right. It's a joy comes through really, I guess we could talk about the last one too now, because it slides into that, right?
Okay.
Consistent confidence. So consistent confidence. Well, I guess where does confidence come from?
Inside of us, it's I think of your history too. Like you get confident from past wins.
Okay. Yeah. A confidence is that feeling that you just know, right? Confidence is like you feel as if like I've got this figured out, right? And sometimes you figure something out very quickly and you're very confident in the results that you're getting. And so, yeah, so that's right. But most confidence is a long play. It's not like something that you figure out really quick and I'm all confident about it. Usually, if you're confident that right out of the gate, you're ready for a fall, right? So that's a bit of pride stepping in there sometimes. And young students,
or naive.
Naivety is probably a better word. Young students are often confident with a bit of naivety, right? Being naive. So, but consistent confidence. I love those two words paired together because consistency is looked at with a word that people are afraid of oftentimes, and that's discipline. And discipline is just being consistent with something over time. And you're all disciplined with something. you're consistently doing something. And so that means that you are disciplined in something that you're doing, whether it's productive or not productive. Either way, you have the ability to be disciplined. So don't think you don't have the ability. You could be consistently good at taking naps, right? So that you could be A+ in that. I don't know where it's taking you, other than you're gonna maybe live longer because you're well rested. But for instance, I am very proud of myself because I've been very consistent with my reading of the Bible. And here's something that I've noticed is that it's changing me. The consistent application of other things I've done in my life have always changed me. Why wouldn't consistently reading my Bible change me? But I've been super consistent with it. And now I'm very confident, and so confident to the point where I'm actually looking forward to future success. So I was thinking about, if I keep this up for 10 more years, where it's going to take me. Now, that's a different way of looking at it. Instead of like, oh, it's a silent dread I have to go do. Now I'm excited, like, wow, I want to stay consistent with this because I'm interested in 2034, what my life is going to look like. Like, how is that going to shape me and change me? And I'm already happy about that. It's already bringing me joy.
It's awesome.
Right? So, and then you think about anything you've ever done that's been consistent, like for a long period of time. How long does it take to master something?
We were talking like 10,000 hours.
10,000 hours to master something. So now after you've got your $10,000 hours in, and you're the master, right? Now what? 10 more years goes by. 10 more years, not hours. 10 more years goes by, and now what? You're a master plus 10 years? You have even more confidence. Like, confidence grows. It brings you more joy. It becomes fluid. It becomes easier. Everything starts to look differently.
I was thinking I was like, you become the master teacher. I hope like that would be a really, like if you have such mastery, then you start to teach others, and that multiplies.
Well, and that's something that I've learned myself, is that once you can teach something, you have command over the information. So a master becomes a better teacher, right? The longer you teach something, you just develop the skills to do it better. You can see whether it's getting in there or not, right? So I mean, consistent application of these things. So when you think about what could you put into your life consistently that is going to always fight against and always be in direct opposition to the undertow that's trying to pull you under, what would that be? And what would that look like?
Right. Like, pick what it would be, and then, like you did, that's powerful. Look out 20 years.
Yeah.
What would it, envision what it would look like?
Yeah. Future pace it, right? But you first have to get it going, right? You just have to start it. That's the hardest thing for most people, is the inertia, to overcome inertia.
Yeah.
And then it's just a grind, right? It's not a grind in a negative way, but it's these little things. And we're talking about children, and where does joy come from? What makes a parent happy is when kids make great decisions, right? And how did they ever come up with the ability to make right decisions?
They were taught it or modeled it.
They were modeled it, but there was also like this discipline that was enacted throughout their whole life that showed them the difference between right and wrong, good and bad, a better decision versus a poor decision, and how much better that makes their life. And so when the time and the opportunity finally comes, what happens? They make a great decision, and a parent is relieved, right? Because they no longer have to worry, because they've done the work, right? It's like the gardener.
On that topic.
Right?
Because there's a new topic. But
yeah. And then you could use a gardener, right? And that's something we talked about before. A gardener who goes out to their garden every day and pulls the little weeds when they're small. Not when they're big and deeply rooted, but when they're small. And they cultivate and they fertilize and they water and they nurture and they care for the garden every day. Maybe twice a day they go out and check for bugs or something that's eating their plants or whatever, and they work with nature and they become in tune with nature. And what happens at the end of the season? They reap a beautiful harvest. Versus some of our gardening seasons where we go out there, work really hard and toil, get everything planted, walk away for a few weeks and come back and it's a weed bed.
Right.
And then we're out there fighting and wrestling with weeds, clear it all out, looks better, the plants grow, the weeds grow. We come back 2 or 3 weeks later and it's another battle again.
Yeah.
Right? So that lack of discipline and lack of consistency leads to more challenge, more problems, and a more difficult life. It robs you of joy.
Yeah. I'm thinking too of like any listeners with younger children and experience we've had and things I wish I had paid more attention to. And, you know, those little weeds, they need your attention at the moment, like before they get rooted. And just you're tired. But those things are so important, you know, the little things consistent over every day.
Yeah. They may not seem that big of a deal at the time, but they will mature, grow, and become a bigger problem. So, yeah, I think we did a pretty good job today, if I do say so. Not bragging, but anyway, best ever. No. Anyway, thank you all for listening to this week's edition of your weekly Limitless Life Network podcast. Be sure to tune in each and every week so you can stay connected, be inspired, and keep moving toward your best life by stripping away the limitations that are keeping you from that.
Have a great week.
Have a great week. We'll see you guys.